I've started yesterday a new weaving project, but I haven't gotten real far with it yet. And I wanted to show you one of the very early steps in this process. And this is the step of measuring out the warp threads. Now, a lot of them are already on the loom, and you'll see that in a minute. But so for this project, what I want is 474 threads of warp that will be 7 yards long each. And the way I'm doing that is I use a warping board, and I'll show you that in just a minute. And I wrap the warp threads onto there and measure them and count them. So it sounds pretty straightforward. So let's aim you down. I think I got to back the camera up just a little bit more. There you can kind of see my warping board. So what I'm going to do is take my thread here. See, and I get a nice light white thread, and I go 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Then back again. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. There's 2 threads. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Back again. Tie it off. Just for a minute, I'll tie it off down there. Okay, so now I'm going to just kind of push these closer together to get them set. Now, I do a step here that most people don't. That is, I take a little piece of colored string and I tie, after I've got a number of threads that I want, I tie that around just to keep track of it. And the reason I do that is because when I go over to the loom and put this on, I've got what's called a rattle on the very top, where I can separate my threads to help me keep them organized as I'm winding them on. And for each set of threads that are going to go through one opening in the rattle, I want them tied. I want them to stay together as a group. So to help it from, to help avoid getting tangled when I'm doing that step, I like to group my threads together and tie them together. So that's that step. And yeah, you can kind of see I'm just measuring out threads. Look at the warping board here. And this is just a little frame that I made a number of years ago with pegs. And I've got it set up so that each trip across it is exactly 1 yard of measured length. So when I want to measure out my warp, I just go back and forth, and that's how many yards. So here's 1 yard, here's 1 yard, each is a yard, and that's how I do that. Now let's move you over just a little bit to the other end. Okay, I'm going to do one more set. And in some weaving articles, when they talk about this, they talk about creating a cross. So I'm going to show you that step next. So now I'm going to come up here. I'm going over these top 2 pegs, and then I'm going to go down underneath this one here, over that and under that, and up like this. And so you can see with this thread right here, I've got kind of a cross there. And that is necessary when I go over to the loom, that I run what are called lees sticks through that cross in the right way, and that keeps my threads properly sorted and aligned. That helps to do that during the process of winding all these threads onto the back of the loom, which is a step I'll show you probably tomorrow, because I don't think I'm going to start that yet today for this project. So there's 2 more threads, 2 more at this end, which means 4 here. Okay, now again, I'm getting ready to take this off of the warping board and move it over to the loom. But just to help me keep things from getting tangled up, what I'm going to do is I'm going to take just a piece of scrap yarn right here, and I'm going to just tie it around the very end of this in a little slip knot right there. And I'm going to do the same thing in the cross here where these things cross, because that will just keep that cross really nice and well defined for me when I get over to the loom. So there's one more. And I'm going to take and tie this group of threads a couple more times just to keep it straight. Let's move this camera down just a little bit. There you go. So we'll tie them here. Now what I've got is, in general, I've got this set of threads and this set of threads that are going to go onto the loom. So that amounts to, there's 20 threads in each of these sets. So that's 40 threads that I'm going to put onto the loom now. And the reason I'm doing 40 is because I'm planning this to be 20 threads per inch of warp. And this will give me 2 inches worth of threads to put on at a time. I know there are people who do this in much larger sets. There are definitely people who do this in much larger sets, but I prefer to do it in small chunks. I feel that I have a little bit more control of what I'm doing if I do it that way. So I'm going to take these groups of threads, these 40 threads, off of the warping board, and I'm just going to roll them up on my hand. So there's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 yards. I'm going to grab the cross. I think you can see there I've got 7 yards of threads, 40 of them, ready to go over to the loom. So let's turn the old camera around and let me go over to the loom. Now what I do with this end of it, I've just got some plastic grocery bags that I'm just going to drop this into, and it keeps it up off the floor so the kitty cats don't play with it. It's basically what that's for. Eventually I'm going to pull them out of there, but for organizational purposes right now I want to keep them away from the cats. So you can see my threads there. I'm going to move the camera over a little bit closer now so you can see the next step. Here's where it would be nice if I had a full-time camera person to assist me, because they could move the camera as I'm working. So what I'm going to do is I'm taking these threads that are, you can see they're crossed in my hand. I'm going to put the first of my lee sticks, that's this stick right here, through the top opening. And I'm going to grab the next lee stick and the metal rod that I will be tying onto it. I'm going to run it through this second opening. And now if you look right here, you can see there's where my tie was, and I've got the metal rod that I'm going to tie onto, the lee sticks, each in different opening, so that separates my threads. That's what helps me to keep them organized. Now I'm going to come up to right here, and I'm going to start, because I've laid these out by color of the threads that I'm working with, I know that which ones go in here first. And I've got a little rubber band in here to keep them from bouncing out, so let's take that off. So now I can lay this in here. Let's see if I can move the camera even closer for doing that. Okay. Camera's a little bit closer. Hopefully you can see a little bit better. I'm going to grab my next set of, in this case, 4 threads that I want to put through the rattle, which is this device here. It allows me to kind of separate things and have them sort of combed as we're going, as we're wrapping on. And I'm taking the next sets, and I use the colors of these threads just to help me remember what sequence to do these. It seems like it's more putsy this way, and I agree, it is more putsy this way, but it's more putsy at this point. When it comes time to wrap these threads on, to pull them all the way onto the loom, what I'll find is that I have far fewer tangles doing it this way than if I was to not keep track of which threads are where. So we'll move this batch over. We'll grab the first set of threads and put them into the rattle. Grab the next set of threads, put them into the rattle. The next set of threads, almost had a tangle there, but I didn't. There we go. Those go into the rattle next, and this set goes in, and this set goes in. And now I've got, so you've watched me put 40 threads into here in such a way that they're well organized. That's in there correctly. That's that step. I do this all the way across the loom from way here to here. So for my 474 threads divided by 20 per inch, it's 23.5 inches approximately of threads across my loom. I'll show you the next bit of winding on the warp when I get all of the threads across. Okay, but I just wanted to show you a little bit of that step. Okay, here's my record keeping. Here's just the count that I'm keeping of my threads by color. I've got the light brown, the dark brown, and the white, and the dark brown, the light brown. So each time I did it, now I've just done 40 more threads, so I'm going to go over and mark 40 more there, and 1, 2, and it goes out to this point here. So this is just a count of the threads that I'm going to put on, and I'm going to enlarge this when I start setting up through the heddles, which you've seen before. That's my record keeping. So now I've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. 1, 2, 3, 4. 74 more threads to put on here, so that's a little over 3.5 inches to go, and we'll be finished warping, or at least measuring this set of warp.